2016, a new TV show hit the digital airwaves and needed a podcast dedicated to chronicling its adventures. An elite team has been assembled for this task. Unfortunately, the world's listeners have not heard of this Wonder Twin duo. And although they may not be known now, in the future they will be referred to as tomorrow's legends.
Boy, Harley, I sure hope everyone remembers us. We've been gone quite a while.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a month, but I'm sure they will.
Well, our listeners are just as much legends as we are, so I guess you're right.
Flash, when have I been wrong?
Well, there was that one time. Right. Don't tell them that story. I almost forgot.
Speaking of memories, do you remember how to do this?
Oh, yeah. Podcast. Jeez, good thing I have you around here, partner.
I mean, you really couldn't do this without me.
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Welcome back. Welcome to our early summer break bonus episode. I'm the Flash.
And I'm Harley Quinn.
My God, does it feel just like it's been a while, Harley?
Yeah, it does actually feel like it's been a while. It's been a lot going on. There's
a lot going on. You have got some major changes in your life coming, and you've had a lot of preparations that you've had.
I know. I guess I should maybe officially announce this on our podcast. I think a number of people know, but for those of you that don't, I am having a baby in 2 weeks.
There is going to be a little Harley Quinn coming out soon.
That's mildly terrifying.
Now, you guys don't know, boy or girl. You're waiting for the surprise, right?
No, we haven't. We do know it's a girl, but we haven't picked a name yet.
So it is going to be a little Harley Quinn.
Yeah, no, that's why I said it's terrifying.
Oh, well, that is awesome. I'm sure all our listeners are with us that we hope the best for you and good health, and can't wait to hear how it all goes afterwards.
Yeah, I'll post some stuff out on Instagram and maybe a little bit on like Twitter and stuff. So I mean, I'm at Justin Atlanta on Twitter, and then those of you that are friends on Facebook will get to see some more pictures.
Mm-hmm. Well, that'll be fun. That's exciting. And that's also, I mean, people have probably been wondering where we've been at, and that's part of the reasons. You know, you've got some personal things happening, and it's spring and early summer now, and I just got a lot of outdoor activities and other things going on. So yeah, we warned you guys we needed a few weeks off. It's been about a month and a bit, but we did promise we're coming back for this extra fun little bonus episode, and we got lots that we want to talk about.
Yeah, we do. It's going to be a good show.
Yeah. So what this is a not so much a recap, but this is an overall season review. And we've kind of brought everything together over the season, things that we've talked about, and kind of mulled it over for a little while and come up with our final season feelings about everything, I guess. Is that how you could put it, Harley?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, this is kind of looking over the season as a whole, not really going episode by episode and re-reviewing or recapping everything. It's just kind of how we feel about where things ended.
Yeah, and, you know, where we think the show could have done better, where we think it needs to improve, and what we hope is coming in season 2, so we're going to get to all of that.
Yep.
Plus we do have, you know, our usual sections. We've got Quote of the Week in there, and we've got nitpicks, but we're kind of making it a full season theme, so it is now going to be Quote of the Season and Nitpick of the Season.
Yeah. It'll be exciting.
It's going to be fun.
Yeah.
Well, let's start then. We've got, let's give us an overall season rating. Harley, what are you thinking as the season as a whole? Where did it end up for you?
Season as a whole, I would give it a solid 8 out of 10. I mean, I felt that it was a very solid first season. It took a little bit to kind of get its footing, and it kind of had its ups and downs along the way, but overall, I was very happy with what they did. I was very entertained with what they did, and I'm really excited for season 2 and the possibilities. Mm-hmm. I mean, some of the time travel stuff, sometimes when it was hand wavy, that could get a little, frustrating because there was no continuity. If you're looking at the season as a whole, in some respects, like the continuity they played a little loose with it.
They did, yes.
But then at the end, they kind of wrapped it all into this like, oh, it was a predestined future and this stuff all had to happen and you had to go back and mess this stuff up, quote unquote, for it to work because that was the whole design and blah, blah, blah.
Right.
And so I was like, okay, that worked. It was a way to, if not write it off, at least explain away some of the things fans had issues with over the whole season. And it was kind of the same thing with Vandal Savage. I mean, I'll kind of get to this as part of my nitpick, so I don't want to go too much into it, but just a lot of the stuff with him felt very drawn out.
Right.
So, what about you?
Well, I find this kind of funny, Harley, because you and me were back and forth a little bit with our ratings, and finally towards the end, we see our ratings seem to kind of even out. And look at where we end up. Looking at the season as a whole, I also gave it an 8. So we ended up giving the exact same rating.
Nice.
I think that's pretty cool.
That's kind of funny.
So my 8 entails, as you were saying, even though there were some hiccups and bumpy rides along the way, for me, the fact that we came to love our characters and feel attached to them emotionally is what really keeps the overall rating fairly high for me. When I watch TV shows, it's that connection that makes me care what happens to the characters that sinks a show into my heart. And this Legends did that eventually. There were some characters that I really grew attached to. Snart and Rory and, even Rip at the very end. I wasn't a fan of him up until the last couple episodes, but the show managed to do that, and that's what really keeps me coming back, and that's where the rating comes from. That, and it also had crazy time travel, techno-gadget-filled sci-fi mixed with superhero premise that for me is just too much fun. I mean, those are all things that I love. And they mixed them all up quite well, and it worked out. Like you said, there was a bit of hand-wavy stuff, but in the end, when we realized that we just need to look at this show as a fun show and not take it too seriously, it became so much more enjoyable. And, even though we have our nitpicks, I mean, we got to nitpick because that's fun. And we're covering the show, so we do have to analyze it. But I think overall it came out pretty good. And I think for me, as a feeling, by the end of the season of all our superhero shows, I felt Legends outperformed Arrow by quite a bit, because Arrow was quite disappointing this season.
I agree.
It wasn't as good as The Flash. I think Flash is the far clear winner of all the superhero shows for just overall quality. So I'm thinking for Legends to land in between Arrow and Flash is quite a feat for their first season.
Yeah, no, I completely agree on all of those points. And for me, it also outperformed Arrow. Arrow was, of the 3 shows, Arrow was my least favorite. I'm not watching Supergirl, so I can't comment.
Right.
So, and I'm not going to be able to add TV shows into my lineup next year. So unfortunately, Supergirl will continue to get the axe for me. So you all will just have to keep me caught up.
Except
spoilers, Supergirl are totally fine.
Okay, but except when they do the big crossover events, you're obviously going to have to keep up with that at that point.
I mean, to the extent that she's on our shows, I mean, that's great. I'll keep up with that. If our characters go over there, probably won't watch those episodes because I'll have to go out of my way to get them.
And then I'll have to give you a play-by-play then.
Yeah, or, I mean, for that episode, I'll listen to the Made of Steel podcast for that episode.
There you go. You sure you can fit a podcast in, but you can't watch a TV show? The TV show ends up usually shorter than the podcast.
Well,
saying.
That's true, but I have to actually watch the TV show, whereas I can listen to the podcast and do a whole lot of other things.
I see.
Like work.
Yeah.
Or take care of a baby.
But hey, maybe you're feeding the baby and you can squeeze in a 45-minute episode of TV while you're...
That is true. That is...
See, there's possibilities. There's options here.
Yeah. Well, but when does Supergirl come back? I mean, they all come back in October.
Yeah,
right?
they all come back the same time. I think Supergirl is staying on Monday, so it'll be Supergirl Monday, Flash Tuesday, Arrow Wednesday, Legends Thursday.
Yeah.
And Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. too, because I think we both watched that as well on Mondays.
And Gotham's on Monday.
And Gotham, yeah. See, Monday's a big night.
That's why I'm not adding Supergirl.
Well, coming back to Legends, so we've come up with we came up with about 5 points that we can talk about, just looking back at the season as a whole. Some key things that happened and some storyline reveals. So what do we want to start off with, Harley?
Well, kind of the first thing that I was kind of thinking about, and this kind of went into my overall review of the season, was just that everything that the team did was in fact like essential to the timeline and not a deviation from the timeline, which is kind of what a lot of us were thinking. We're like, how is this not having bigger repercussions? Why is this not like reverberating more throughout time and really screwing things up? Mm-hmm. And then at the end, we came to find out that the Time Masters orchestrated the whole thing. They needed a certain outcome to occur, and that all of these events, like they just, used the Oculus and worked on probabilities and let the characters kind of quote unquote screw up the timeline in order to get exactly what they wanted to happen, which was Savage taking power.
Right. And could you imagine, like, this happening in your own life, like, how much that would ultimately suck to find out that any choices you've made along, I mean, mind you, at this point, it was only 5 months for them, but still, any choices that you made were only already preconceived with outcomes for both, no matter which way you went. You were never really in control of your own destiny. It would take a very strong mind to not be completely, what's the word I'm thinking of? Completely let down by that or completely deflated by that.
Oh, I completely agree. I'm not a big fan of the whole, this is going to come out the wrong way, but the everything happens for a reason kind of line of thinking. I'm like, no, sometimes things just happen. And sometimes really crappy things happen to good people, but it happens. Like, it's not it had to happen so that I could come to this realization and this could happen in my life that would lead to this and this and this and this. I don't believe that.
No, so you don't follow that idea that you have to learn a lesson, whether it's a good lesson or a bad lesson. Things happen in order for you to.
Well, but that's a little different. It's different to be in a situation and learn and grow from that situation and have that situation shape you as a person, as opposed to saying, well, this happened for a reason because this led to this, and this happening in my life. So if this terrible thing or this amazing thing, it could be an amazing thing, didn't happen, then none of this other stuff never would have happened.
Okay. So predetermined fate kind of thing is what you don't buy into.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So yes, I completely agree with your comment that if I had been in this situation, I probably would have felt exactly like how Rip felt towards the end. It's like nothing we did mattered. It just doesn't even matter.
And you would probably be joining Start on grabbing that Oculus explosion thing there, wouldn't you?
Probably. Yeah. Like, well, screw this. I'm done.
I'm out of here. I'm kind of torn between the two ideas. I think it's, like you said, you kind of separated it a bit for me. I think things happen and it's up to you to take from it something. You always have to learn something from everything that happens. And
right. Exactly.
Whether there's a predetermined destiny or things happen specifically in order for reasons and connect all the dots, I don't know how far I believe that myself. That's something it's a great conversation to have with somebody, and I find when you actually talk about it is when you start thinking more about it and applying it to yourself. I don't think anyone has a set determined decision on that. It's when you talk about it, you start to realize what you really do believe.
Yeah, and kind of rethink everything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those kind of late night philosophical conversations that can either get you in trouble or it can be great. Yeah. One of the two.
Yeah. So that's kind of what this show presented, which I guess makes sense because you have these people called the Time Masters who live at the end of time, and they're basically got puppet strings throughout the timeline going backwards from where they are, and they're just in control of everything. I mean, that's kind of, I don't know if you could say godlike, but that definitely would give someone, what's that saying that you heard, what's that thing Han Solo always says in Star Wars, the delusions of grandeur?
Yes. Okay. I was going to use that phrase, but I was like, I have no idea if that's the phrase from Star Wars or not.
So yeah, I mean, so it was interesting, but it allowed our team to go in there and prove that, hey, nobody is going to be in control of our destiny, and we're going to prove that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, definitely.
I mean, they tried, but in the end, apparently, it sort of mattered. At first it didn't matter, and then they did some things that made it matter, so.
Yeah.
We have free will moving forward.
Exactly. Which is kind of cool.
Yeah, I agree.
Kind of cool. So our next point then, that kind of it has a little bit of similarity with it. But we're talking about Savage's rise to power was orchestrated by the Time Masters as the best defense against the Thanagarians. And the meteorites that bound Kendra, Carter, and Savage are also from Thanagar. Yeah, did you have more thoughts on that?
So, I mean, that was just kind of one of the things we had learned by the end of the season. We originally, didn't know how Savage rose to power. We just assumed it was global domination, kind of a Hitler on steroids type of deal. And then, found out that the Time Masters organized the whole thing because of the Thanagarians. And so that was an interesting tie-in once we figured out that that's where the meteorites were coming from. Mm-hmm. But then it all just kind of, it was a nice tie-in, and it worked to, help with the season finale and kill Savage and do that, that whole thing. But then nothing else ever happened with it. And so they kind of set it up to be this great thing that they could launch into in season 2. And then all of a sudden the Hawk people have left the team, and I don't think Thanagar is where they're going with season 2. So I was just it was a whole plot point. The basis, arguably, of our season. That isn't, I don't know, it just felt like it didn't matter. Did you feel that way?
Well, the whole talk about the Thanagarians and Kendra Carter, that's actually part of my nitpick, so I won't go into detail about that here, but where I'm agreeing with you is that they present, basically, the end game, the basis of our entire season 1 story was that Savage is being built up to defend against Thanagar. Mm-hmm. And then they just tossed that out the window. It just, like you said, they presented it, well, here's the reason we're doing everything, and that's it.
Yeah.
No, there's nothing coming from it. I mean, we've already found out that season 2, it will not be about Thanagar and this. So, which we'll talk a little bit more in our news section, but it's to base your whole first season on this idea and then not do anything with it is kind of a big letdown. It's kind of disappointing because it opened the door to some pretty amazing, cool ideas, having a planet versus planet battle or war or idea, and maybe their scope was too big and they realized, whoa, okay, we're not going to be able to do that, so they have to dial it back, and they just basically wrote that idea off as fast as they wrote Kendra Carter off in the finale.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's
I don't
unfortunate.
know. Yeah, and I don't know if they wanted to go somewhere with it, and then just over the course of the season, the whole Hawk People storyline fell flat with fans, and so they purposely redirected. I don't know. I mean, that could have been what happened because, we all kind of bashed the Hawk People the whole season.
Again, that's my nitpick, so I've got great detail about that.
Okay, well then let's go on to the next point.
Sure. Yeah.
And so we can talk about that a little bit more later.
All right. What's the third point?
Okay, well, another big thing that we learned is there's only one timeline, right? Not kind of multiple timelines, like it sometimes has seemed. And so the changes that are made to this timeline, they'll eventually take hold. But it takes time for certain changes. They don't cement in time automatically. But then yet there are still big items or big changes that are crucial to everything, the overall end game. And those are always going to find a way to play out somehow or another. So that's kind of what we learned about it. There's only one timeline, and any changes you make will take time to set, but if there's a big enough change that has to happen in some way or another, it's going to find a way to happen.
Right.
And those are kind of the rules they've set.
Yeah, and I found it so intriguing, like that there is always just one timeline, and some things are slow to take hold, as you said, which gives you a chance to fix mistakes.
Right.
So, which is cool. And then you have the idea of time wants to happen, which they've said a couple times.
Yeah, they have.
Which both idea, your ability to fix mistakes and time wants to happen, both leak over into the Flash TV show. When he goes back in time to change things, he doesn't create a new timeline. He only alters the one that they have, and certain things happen no matter what. Which we've seen. That's the hard lessons that he has had to learn.
And so we'll continue to have to learn.
What's that?
I said, and we'll continue to have to learn, apparently.
Well, yeah, because he's a young hero. He's got lots to grow and learn still.
Yes, he does.
So if there's an overall end game to time, my question is, who decides that? Is time itself an entity that has a goal for the entire universe? Like, why is there things that time wants to happen? I'm trying to figure out where that comes from. Who makes
that decision?
Yeah.
Well, I feel like originally it was the Time Masters, but now we've destroyed the Time Masters, effectively. So, we kind of figured that out throughout this whole season because we know that the Time Masters they're able to see, forwards, backwards, everywhere in time using the Oculus that we blew up.
Right.
And so using that, they kind of shaped the timeline, how it needed to go for the best outcome for humanity as a species.
But that's what the Time Masters thought. They didn't ask anybody else what they thought. It was only what they decided.
Exactly.
Would be best. And they decided Savage was the best possible defender of Earth against Thanagar.
Well, I think, because I think I don't know if this was stated somewhere or just implied, but in one of those last episodes where, you were talking about the Oculus, I think it was Time Master Druce. I feel like he at some point either said or implied that this was the only way that humanity survived. Savage was the only one who was capable of, in a way, uniting all of humanity and then defeating Thanagar. Otherwise, we're just wiped off the face of the earth. Is what I took out of it.
So would that knowledge come from the fact that they've seen the future, I say 50 times, 100 times, and it's always a failure until they realized that Savage was the answer, and so they went back in time and continued to interfere with it for the outcome that they thought would be best, and that's having Vandal Savage unite the world?
Yes and no. I think maybe they used the Oculus to kind of figure out that path, you know what I mean? And then kind of force it to play out.
So you don't think they saw the future? Like my starting point in that was that they've seen the future
through the
times, and they know that Earth and humans get destroyed.
Yeah, through the Oculus. Maybe not living it out, but seeing it through. I think they used the Oculus to see it in some way, exactly. Yeah. And I don't know if it was a game of probabilities or if you just kind of, let's try this and see what this outcome looks like, and let's try this and see what this outcome looks like, until they found the optimal one, and then they just had to set the dominoes off and make it happen.
In a way, bringing all these points up, it almost makes me wish that we didn't destroy all the Time Masters, because there's kind of more things I want to find out now. Yeah,
I don't think we destroyed the entire Vanishing Point, did we? Just maybe the Oculus area?
Yeah, I guess, maybe they, just the Oculus, so they no longer have control over the timeline, so I don't see our heroes running around killing everybody. They just destroyed the Oculus so that they don't have control anymore.
Yeah.
So maybe they'll still end up at the end of time there, and have some of those characters still around, and maybe we'll find out a few more tidbits of information. Who knows?
Yeah, I definitely think that would be interesting. I'd like to see the Time Masters in some shape or form kind of come back, maybe not with as much control. I think without the Oculus, they can't have that much control, but
yeah,
it would still be interesting to have them around and at some point.
Well, if their puppeteering strings are now severed, what does that mean when our team goes back in time and does a few things to change the outcome? It's none of it's predetermined anymore, so they're going to do something, and
it's going to change.
It's going to change.
Mm-hmm. And
change the timeline.
Yeah, and that could be really dangerous to play out over an entire season without having a reset button like they did this season.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting. And it this kind of stuff is what's making me excited about the new season, because they have a whole new. It's wide open now where they can go with it.
It is, yeah. I mean, I think they have a lot of possibilities. I think they need to be careful. Mm-hmm. They've added a 4th show to this universe. 2 of these shows deal with time travel, some more heavily than others.
Yeah, one directly does. One has a character that just kind of likes to time travel sometimes, and
completely reset the timeline in unimaginable ways.
Yeah, and the other 2 shows are just kind of victims to everything that happens.
Exactly. And so it's like you have to make that play out in some way, shape, or form, because especially with what Barry's done, he has influenced too many people on all of these shows. There has got to be some ripple effects.
Well, we can talk about that a little bit later in our news section, I think, because there's been some stuff about that.
There has.
So yeah, well, with everything we've been talking about, that kind of leads into our 4th and final overall season point we want to talk about, and that leads into what do we want to see for season 2? What kind of changes to the formula and the storyline, the execution of it all? Like, where did they go wrong this season? What do they need to fix, and how will that lead into what we want to see for season 2?
Yeah, well, for me, I mean, I think the biggest thing is going to be time travel with consequences.
Okay.
And we've launched into this a little bit already, but it's going to have the potential to cause either some major plot holes across the whole universe especially with bringing in Supergirl. Now they've got 4 shows. I mean, what we were talking about a minute ago is kind of exactly what I want to see for season 2, but at the same time, I am fearful of for season 2, because plot holes can get really obvious with time travel.
Okay, so when you say consequences, give me an example. What do you mean?
I mean, if they're going to go back in time and inevitably change something. So depending on how big of a thing they change, what is that ripple effect going to be throughout time? And if it's big enough and it affects characters that cross over with other shows or potentially appear at other shows, that needs to be reflected in those other shows as well, because it's all happening within the same universe.
Right.
And they don't have a magic, this was all supposed to happen, and if it didn't happen, this wouldn't have played out this way type of deal.
I'm trying to think of just even just creatively coming up with a specific example. So say Snart goes back in time to his house and visits himself and gives himself as a kid a bunch of instructions on how to do something or how to better survive or whatever, or say he beats up his dad again or something. That should immediately have an impact on the type of person he now is.
Yeah.
Because if he goes back and warns himself and teaches himself some things, then that means he will grow up with knowledge he never had before. So that should immediately change something about him now in the future. So I'm thinking of an idea like that. Or say they go back in time and, like when Adam lost a piece of his suit and Savage got a hold of it, even though they went back and got it, say something like that happens again. Mm-hmm. Then when they jump back to 20 or 30 years back to the future again or whatever, there should be a complete change to technology. Things should be, things should have rippled through time a lot faster. And 1986 now looks like 2086. And you're like, whoa, what happened? Like something's changed. Or...
Yeah, I'm thinking more of events, like something like that. Like you just said, if you go back in time and introduce people to technology 30 years before they should have been introduced to it, and then they can make significant progress. And let's say, what happens, 2016 today is not going to look like 2016 if we had this technology to build from, 20, 30 years ago. Yeah. But the problem is we have three other shows that are set in 2016.
That's true. Well, even as an example, something situational. So that episode where they went to the Pentagon and they broke in and steal a bunch of plans and whatever and got out of there, nothing seemed to change in the future. But if they did that, then the Pentagon and the government would like completely overhaul their security, and that would become, the Pentagon would look different. It would have different security protocols. It would look like Fort Knox times 100 kind of thing, because somebody easily broke in and stole stuff from them, and then the government's going, what the hell? So that would have an immediate impact on the future. So they jump back 20 years from now, and then they look at the Pentagon again, and now it looks like a friggin' armored fortress and not just a concrete building shaped like a Pentagon. Now it's changed because they've had to do something to enforce their security measures. So I'm just thinking of ideas like that could be consequences for them doing something.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, technically anything could be a consequence, but I mean, some things are going to be smaller than others. I guess it just depends on how far back they go, what it is that they do, and how far that would realistically travel, how that would affect things. Or would it? I mean, maybe it wouldn't. Maybe it would affect like a small little town, but it happened in 1880, so news can't spread kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So.
Well, yeah, exactly. Or how many times did I complain over the season about people seeing the Wave Rider fly in over their city when there's barely even airplanes yet. Or there is airplanes, and all of a sudden you got this spaceship with a time device revolving around the front. I'm like, seriously, that people will talk.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, and you had another point?
Yeah, and then the other thing is just, I don't want to see a repeat of Vandal Savage. I don't want to see the same villain episode after episode after episode where we get nowhere, and then all of a sudden we have a big revelation or change in our thinking, and all of a sudden we can kill him in the final episode. It's the same thing Arrow did with Damien Dark. It's just like, that formula for a villain, a big bad, it just didn't work for me. So.
It didn't work for this season, this show. I mean, it had its potential.
It did.
I think if Savage was continually a threat and was, maybe if it went as far as taking out one or two of our cast members or team members, maybe we lost a couple of them. Instead of killing the one guy that can resurrect all the time, maybe we could have lost, not to make anyone mad, but maybe we could have lost Sarah, or we could have lost Ray or somebody, and it would have given Savage more credibility to him being the supervillain for the whole season.
Yeah.
Instead, like you said, instead of him, we see him every week after week, and he just keeps getting away. It just weakened him quite a bit as a threat.
Yeah, I agree. It kind of diluted it for a little bit.
Well, and there was even episodes where he wasn't even in it. We'd have one or two episodes in a row where he wasn't even in it. He was maybe mentioned by name, but the thing is the idea of him still loomed heavily over the episode, and whatever it was they were doing in that episode pertained directly to trying to stop him. So it really took away from his threat, which I think was too bad, because when we first got introduced to him back on Flash and Arrow, and we talked about that, he seemed it was quite a vile villain. You were thinking, oh man, this guy's going to be some serious trouble.
Yeah.
First time we saw him.
Yeah, exactly. But that's the problem, is when you try and make a villain that powerful and you have an entire season to fill, that's a problem.
Right.
So, I don't know. I mean, I think it's nice when there's a big bad or a big bad is alluded to, but I think one that we see episode after episode and we try and vanquish episode after episode and it just gets nowhere, but then there's at the same time almost no real consequences for it. I mean, there were some, but I feel like there should have been more. I don't know. Something was lacking with it. So I'd like to see it better done for season 2. Maybe have like some smaller villains thrown in there, or just like almost a monster of the week kind of format.
Well, now you're stealing from my points.
Oh, well then maybe you should start talking.
Well, I'll lead with that, because that's one of my points for what I want to see change. And I think a villain of the week formula would do the show wonders, because it allows an episode to be enclosed on itself a little bit, so viewers that are new to the show don't have to try to understand what's all happened before. They could come in and watch an episode and go, oh, wow, that was fun, that was cool, I'm going to check out another one. But at the same time, it just allows just like Flash and sometimes Arrow did, there was plenty of villains of the week, and it made for very cool, individual episodes that were still kind of attached to the main story arc, but they were individual episodes that they had to deal with a bad guy for that episode, and it took the entire 45 minutes for them to be able to figure it out and whatever. That could be what was strong about a lot of those episodes. And I think if you, every once in a while, you bring in a tougher villain that maybe gets a 2-part episode, leave us with a cliffhanger. It doesn't have to be a season-ending cliffhanger. It doesn't have to be the Christmas break cliffhanger. It could be a week-to-week cliffhanger. You've got a villain that's tough enough that for the first part of the story, he's actually beating our heroes and he's winning, and it leaves us hanging, and we have to wait until next week for our heroes to figure it out and fight back and beat him at the end of the second episode. Mm-hmm. I think a formula like that could make the show so much more exciting and keep everything tight and not drawn out, as you were complaining earlier.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, no, I totally agree.
That's one idea. Well, and to finish off, like, they have to be worthwhile villains, not some cheap little gimmicky villains. They have to be worthwhile villains that are not knockoffs, not, you know, just, they gotta be worthwhile. Worth giving an entire episode to. Another thing that I think that might help the show, and there was rumor of, is they extend the season to 23 episodes, like Flash and Arrow. That would allow for a lot more villain of the week kind of storytelling and, you know, 2-part episodes kind of thing. I think they need to extend the season. And there's rumors that they might.
Yeah, I was actually just looking that up while we were talking, is trying to figure out if we had an episode order yet. I haven't really found anything.
Oh, okay. Well, we can check. That might be maybe on IMDb or something. They might have it. I don't know. And then, of course, this was brought up quite a few times during the season, but we need to not have any love or romance storylines. Not one amongst our main cast, not one that stretches out over the whole season. I don't mind watching Sarah Lance flirt and get it on with another nurse or, you know, or whatever. Like, if it's a single episode where they go back in time and say they go back to another Wild West town and some young lady happens to, you know, fall in love with Ray and develop a crush on him, and, you know, something happens for the episode, but at the end of the episode he has to say, I'm sorry, goodbye, I gotta go. That would be fine. That would be more fun, but let's not have a romantic story that goes throughout the entire season between 2 of our main cast. We just don't need it. This show does not need it. It works okay on Arrow, there's bits of it on The Flash, but Legends does not need it. It's not that kind of show. It would be far more successful and enjoyable, I think, without a romantic storyline.
Well, it has enough going on as it is. It has like 6, 7, 8 main cast members.
Exactly.
I mean, plus villains. I mean, that is too much going on to throw in a romance in there. I mean, you have a hard enough time giving your characters screen time, let alone having to have a romance built in on top of that. It's too much.
It's too much, right.
Too much.
Now, another thing that I think the show needs to do is take a cue from the Doctor Who series, which is extremely popular with sci-fi fans and fans of this type of show. Legends needs to get more adventurous with its time travel. Go to places like ancient Rome, ancient Egypt, go back to the Vikings when they were first coming over North America, whatever. Find some fun time periods where you could have a complete new set design, a new look to the show, and they have to go in undercover. They have to take on the look of whatever timeline it is they're in. Like, can you imagine them trying to fit in Rome wearing togas? Or, you know, in Egypt they're running around in nothing but their bare feet and, you know, a loincloth wrapped around their waist or whatever. You know, they have to fit into the timeline that they're on. Or the Vikings, they all have to, you know, throw on heavy furs and wear big axes and whatever it is they're doing. Like, I think the show needs to really, really dive into the possibilities of where they could go, because so much has happened over Earth's history and human history. There's some cool eras that they could visit, not just the 60s, not just the 70s, whatever. I think it would be fun. Doctor Who does it, and it's a lot of fun, and I think this show could do it.
Yeah.
It would just, and again, it ties back into my other point. It would allow for single one-off episodes to just be a lot of fun. Mm-hmm. And then if they do want to go into the future, well, let's get creative with the future episodes. If they go beyond 2016, they did it a little bit with a couple of the episodes, but it just looked more of a utopian futuristic, cleaned up kind of thing, but let's get a little more creative with it. Go 150 years into the future, go 500 years in the future, or whatever, and let's see what's happened to the human civilization. Let's get creative with technology, and maybe everything's virtual reality 300 years from now. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, who knows? Yeah,
you've got a TV show based on time travel. Let's actually do it. Let's have some fun, because there's a lot of older shows. There's one called The Voyagers from the early 80s that did it, and it was a lot of fun. You have Quantum Leap, which jumped all over the timeline, and he had a lot of fun having to fit into wherever he landed. There's plenty of shows that have done it. So this show with technology and computer generated graphics and whatever, everything that we have access to nowadays, they could easily do it and make it look good.
Yeah, I mean, that's true, they could. They'd have to be more vigilant about not screwing stuff up.
Yeah, true.
But other than that, I mean, it would be fun to see, like, different time periods and stuff, for sure.
Yeah. So that's our ideas for where the show could go and what we think they need to change and fix, and, yeah. But I think part of that leads into one of our featured sections.
I think a lot of it leads into one of our featured sections.
It is time to get to our nitpicks.
Form of water.
Nitpicks.
Now this, as we stated earlier, this is an overall season nitpick. So we had to think, me and Harley had to think back, what really bugged us the most? We had episode to episode nitpicks, but looking back on the season as a whole, what continued to bug us week after week after week, and at the end, we were just done with that, or they ruined that, or failed big time in that. Harley, what was your season-long nitpick?
I've said it already, and I'm going to say it again. I was very over Vandal Savage.
Okay.
The way they wrapped it up, I mean, like I said, the way that they wrapped up and kind of brought the focus back to him worked for me, and it got me more interested in the character up until, they killed him and we vanquished him, and yay, he's done, he's gone, he's never coming back. So we think. And so that, I mean, I liked that, but as I've said, I'm just going to keep this brief because I've said a lot of this already. I don't want to keep repeating myself. But, I mean, they chased him week after week after week with little to no success. And then all of a sudden they have this big revelation on how to kill him. And it worked. I mean, for me, it did work. I mean, there were some issues with the way they did it. And we talked about them at length on our finale podcast, I think. Mm-hmm. But it was drawn out. It was too drawn out. I'm all for a big bad, but you gotta find more creative ways to just not make it seem like so.
Well, take cues from the Flash. Look at season 1, we had Reverse Flash. He was a big bad that lasted all season long. It was a slow burn, a slow build up, and it was awesome. Season 2 was all about Zoom. Again, a big bad that lasted all season, but it was a slow build up, and it was awesome. Take cues from Flash and look at how, if you want one villain to last the whole season, look at what they did with it. It's the same showrunners. Follow the same formula because it's working.
Mm-hmm. There were some weird things with Zoom. There were some odd things.
Yes.
That happened, but it was handled better than Vandal Savage was. So.
Right.
And they had more episodes.
That's also the problem. That's why Legends needs to extend to a full season, and then they might have more time to really flesh things out. And
yeah, there were times where Zoom was allowed to monologue a little too much, and then all of a sudden he conveniently got away towards the end when we're like, okay, well, we've got 6 episodes left. We can't do this reveal now. So, okay, we still have 4 episodes left. We can't kill him now.
Yeah.
That got to me a little. That was a little Vandal Savage-y for me.
And that's typical action superhero type TV, though. The bad guy always has to monologue a little bit and give away everything, and then I mean that's
with Damien Dark. They get to a certain point, then all of a sudden it's just like for 3 weeks he leaves them alone. You're like, really?
Yeah, well, Arrow didn't quite succeed in much of anything this season, so.
It's a rough season. I still love the show, but man, it was a rough season.
Yeah, exactly. I'm hoping for so much more.
Yeah. Anyway.
Season. Anyway.
talked enough about villains. I'm going to stop. Why don't you launch into your nitpick?
All right. Well, my nitpick is something that everybody had an issue with all season long, and I kept trying and trying. I kept giving it a chance, but by the end, I just ended up getting more frustrated, and it is the Hawk people and their story. And I know everybody hated them, and I know you did, and everybody was happy to see them gone.
Yeah, I was happy to see them gone.
Yeah, but I want to dive into it a little bit more clearly because I think they really messed it up, or more accurately, they failed in telling the Hawk story well, leading to two characters that actually have great backstories and could have been so awesome. Instead, it ended up being hated by the fans, which is my guess as to why the real lame send-off in the finale. And I think I already said it before in our finale episode. It just felt like the showrunners saw all the hate on social media and decided to just write them off quick and be done with it. And to me, that's sad because Hawkman and Hawkgirl have such great backgrounds. Whether you go with the Thanagar, they're from planet Thanagar, or the reincarnation story, they're both equally powerful, dramatic, and emotional stories, and the characters themselves are fantastic. Hawkman's a very imposing figure and a fierce warrior that you just don't mess with, and he's been in great battles alongside Superman and Green Lantern and stuff. And he's just a fun character to watch. And Hawkgirl, who is one of my favorite female characters, Rogue of the X-Men is my all-time favorite female comic book hero. Hawkgirl is right behind her. She's one of the baddest asses around, and the only way I can describe it to you is if you watch the Justice League cartoon. That is a perfect laid out example of how Hawkgirl should be. And if the TV show had have followed that, she would have been awesome and she would have been one of the fan favorites of this show. So it's just sad that they really let it slip out of control and ruin two characters that I love, and especially Hawkgirl, because, as I said, you watch her on the Justice League cartoon with her and Green Lantern ended up becoming quite the warrior pals. She's an amazing character. And it's unfortunate that they really ruined it. And I think they got to a point where there was no salvaging it, there was no saving it. They had just made her such a sappy, horrible excuse for a hero, and it's sad to say, even the performance of the actors, I mean, maybe they didn't have much to work with, but I even got tired of watching them. Their performances just didn't bring any love to the characters to even make you try to like them out of the story that they had.
Well, Carter was dead for most of the season, and I think that's really where they went wrong, is by killing him in the pilot.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a very valid point, too, because it never allowed us to ever connect with him at all. And then by the time they brought him back, he was not the same Carter we got introduced to, so it really just, it just fizzled. And, I mean, just having Kendra be this, oh, help me, save me, damsel in distress type of character where she initially goes to Cisco for help and all that kind of stuff. That's just not Hawkgirl. Hawkgirl is a fierce warrior and doesn't take crap from nobody, doesn't need help from anybody. She can do it on her own, and she's not scared of anybody. Really. So that's my nitpick of the season, because I am really disappointed that they ruined one of my favorite female characters. And I mean completely ruined her. Yeah,
it's a shame. I agree. I mean, I don't know a lot of the comic book lore history, but I feel like there was a lot of missed opportunities with them.
Did you watch the cartoon?
No, I did not. I've not watched the cartoon.
Okay, I'm gonna see if I can find one or two of her best episodes when she was more featured on it, and I'll send them your way, and then you can just watch it just to see her. I mean, they're only 20 minutes. Without commercials, so whatever.
Easy to watch.
Easy to watch. So yeah, I'll send you a couple that I can find about her.
Okay, cool.
And yeah. So that's it. That's our season-long nitpicks.
I think it just about sums it up.
It just about sums it up. So it comes to our number one featured section, the quote of the week.
Shape of an eagle!
Yay!
And we actually did have a quote of the week in our finale episode because there was, episode 16, the big finale, and we pulled some quotes from it and we had people voting on it, but we have not had a chance to announce the winners yet because there was not another episode. But we're doing it now.
It took us a while, but we got here.
Took us a while. So, Harley, we had a funny quote and a serious quote. What was our winning funny quote from the season finale?
Our winning quote with 3 votes was tardiness.
Oh, it's late.
Time Master's never late.
And there you go. And that actually surprised me. I didn't think that was going to be the winner of that one.
Yeah, I realized I don't think I actually voted in that poll, but okay. It's okay. It doesn't matter. I picked the quote I would have picked for one of my quotes of the season. So.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go.
Yeah.
And the winner of our serious quote of the finale episode with 7 votes, and I kind of thought this one would take it. I didn't really have any doubt that it wouldn't.
Oh, I know.
This is probably the quote, this was the most emotional quote that I thought brought tears more than any other event in the season, I would say.
Oh, yeah.
And it was Things Unsaid.
Mick, I don't do touchy-feely. If you got something to say, say it.
This wasn't a good idea. You're the best guy I ever knew. You may not think you're a hero, but you're a hero to me. You got that?
Yeah, I got it.
See you around.
And wow, does that bring you right back to the emotion of that moment, Harley?
Yes. Even just like thinking about it.
Oh, but just hearing the music. I mean, it's the music and everything that, yeah. Oh my God.
That is one of the better things they did this season. I feel like I need to mention whoever did the music was very, very well done.
They sure were able to pull out the emotion that they wanted you to feel. They put the right music to it.
Yes, that was, I probably should have mentioned this and I really forgot it until, I heard this again, but that was one of my favorite things of the season was some of the music that they pulled in. It was fantastic.
Right.
Or pulled in or orchestrated, whatever it is it's called, arranged, composed. I don't even know. I'm not a musician. I think that's obvious.
Well, then we're just tipping our hats to the composers of the soundtrack for our TV show.
Yeah, it's great.
Definitely. So now, you and me had a little bit of homework to do because this is a season review episode. We now had to pick our quote of the season. So we had to pick our favorite funny quote and our favorite serious quote out of all the ones that have come all season long. Harley, what did you come up with?
So, for my funny quote, I chose KFC because it makes me laugh literally every time I hear it.
Every time they do that, I get hungry for chicken.
Every single time.
It's so funny to me. I mean, there's a lot of really funny quotes throughout the entire series, but for some reason, every single time I hear this one, it makes me laugh.
Well, and you also said because I chose Snart, you wanted Rory, and that was great because I wanted a Rory quote to make it in here somewhere because he ended up being my favorite character.
Yeah.
So to respond,
Snart was mine.
yeah. So to respond to your funny quote, my funny quote was from episode 10 with Mr. Leonard Start. Here it is now.
Are you telling me future Hitler is enrolled in a gymnastics class?
And that for me is just perfect, typical Snart sarcasm to the situation that he's in.
Yep. Yep, that's him in a nutshell. That's such a good one too. I love him.
Yeah, so that's funny that those two guys, they had the best lines, most of the humorous lines of the whole season, so it's just fitting that we chose one each from them.
I know. They have got to find a way to bring him back. He cannot be dead. Convinced.
Well, since you're hung up on him, why don't we Reveal your serious quote of the season.
Oh, my serious quote, even though things unsaid really is the quote that I would have picked, and I think a lot of people would agree, but since we already had that one, I went with I am no Pinocchio. His ending moments.
Shut it down! There are no strings on me.
Yeah, there it is. That his final words to I don't know. What do you say? It's his final words.
I know.
I'm really glad that you went with this one. I almost did as well.
Nice.
I wanted one of the big dramatic ones, and like you said, or things unsaid.
Mm-hmm.
But
I think that was really both of our favorites, was things unsaid.
Yeah, and I think we both would have chosen it, and I think it probably would win quote of the season if we polled about it as well. But we used it. It was the winner of our finale episode quote, so we didn't want to use it back to back.
Yeah.
But because I also chose Snart for my funny one, I did not choose this Pinocchio one for my serious one. I instead went with our finale episode, Mortality, which comes from Gideon.
I'm still here, Captain.
I know you are, Gideon.
May I share something with you? I'm not ready to die.
We know that.
And actually, that one still gets me. Holy.
That was a good one, too.
The reason I wanted to pick that one, well, because I already said I wanted to look for something else other than things unsaid, but I went with this one because of the implications behind it, which I spoke about in our finale episode. Just the idea of Gideon being a living entity, I think it blows my mind at what that could mean about the Wave Rider and the other time-traveling ships, if there's any of the other ones left. If these, what we consider just the spaceship operating system, is a living entity possibility now.
Yeah, that has fascinating implications.
Yeah.
So I'm interested to see if they do a little bit more of that in season 2.
Yeah, so there you go. Those are our quotes of the season.
Yep.
So I'm wondering, season 2, are the quotes going to get better? Or are we going to have trouble picking?
I certainly hope so. I hope they don't get worse.
Well, let me ask you something. Now that we've done it for a few episodes, Harley, do you want to continue a funny and serious? Do you want to keep doing the double quotes?
Yeah, well, I mean, we ended up doing it because there were too many.
Just we were having good ones.
Yeah, so, I mean, I'd say we watch the first couple episodes and see how it goes. Okay. And if there's enough material to do 2, I'm good with continuing with 2. If there's not, then we'll just do 1.
Well, I kind of like it because I find, like, when we first started it, we just picked our 4 favorite quotes, and there was a mix of them. But I found that breaking it up into the emotion, like, because there's so much, the show was really good at making you laugh, and I think separating it with what was funny and then separating it with what was dramatic, because the show also imparts so much wisdom or tear-jerking moments that I like having both of them, so I think we should I would like to continue looking for both.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Works for me.
Now, we come to feedback.
Twin powers, activate!
We have feedback?
Yeah, see? We actually do have feedback, and we just have one. I mean, we weren't requesting feedback.
No.
It was our finale episode. We've already done that. We've got our full feedback episode already out there, and we weren't expecting anything, but we got a fantastic email from our friend Ken from Chicago, and it's a little bit personal. It was really addressed to me and Harley, but he said such wonderful things to it that we just want to share it with everybody because it really, really touched our hearts and really, just really made us feel good to know that there's a listener out there that thinks this of our show and of us. So
hopefully Ken doesn't mind.
Well, normally we like to play with him because normally he just tweets us and he actually goes into that. So Would you like the honors, or would you like me to read it?
I'm gonna need to find it in my email.
I have it right here, so.
Okay.
I guess I win that one.
Yeah. I mean, I can find it if you, how long, remind me, how long is it? Do we need to split it? Or?
It came on June 2nd.
Okay.
Well, that's okay. I have it right here. If you want me to read it, I can read it. No worries.
I just couldn't remember how long it was. I didn't know if maybe you wanted to split it up. That's not too bad.
That's not too bad. All right. So, coming from Ken from Chicago. He says, hello, Martin and Jess, excuse me. I meant The Flash and Harley Quinn. It is I, Ken from Chicago, a.k.a. A Man Called Quick. Ha! We've got a superhero name. We don't have to come up with it, so that's cool to know.
We gotta write these down. We gotta do what Arrow Squad did. Maybe I'll go borrow their document.
Make a list. Sounds good.
Yeah.
So he says, I just wanted to email you that your inaugural season of podcast was great, and that I can use longer form communication beyond tweets. With a link.
Good to know.
I've thoroughly enjoyed the show ever since it was recommended by Kevin Batchelder, aka the podcast overlord on Arrow Squad. By the show, I mean your show, Tomorrow's Legends. Oh, Legends of Tomorrow has been nice also. I've come to think of it as one of the Golden Spiral Media podcasts, if that's good. Ken, yes, that is fantastic. That's the kind of thing I'm referring to when I say you have some absolutely wonderful things to say. That is a huge, huge compliment to us.
I was to say, that is not a bad thing. That is amazing.
Just because Golden Spiral Media and their hosts and their podcasts are very professionally put together with a lot of experience and financial support. So for you to match us up there when me and Harley are just here doing this on our own, out of our own pockets, and on our own time, yeah, we can't thank you enough for that amazing compliment.
Yeah, thank you.
But he continues, I look forward to your postseason show. Thoughts on your upcoming bonus show? Well, this is it now, so I hope you're liking it so far. Although I'm saddened you might be on hiatus until the new seasons of Legend of Tomorrow cranks back up, perhaps you might do a pre-season 2 show. Hint, hint. Yes, hint, hint indeed. Your enthusiasm and honesty as real fans, you are not afraid to point out flaws the TV show could do better on in a constructive way while not cruelly mocking the TV show in an instructive way, is why I keep coming back week after week to listen to your show. Keep up the great work. Ken from Chicago, aka A Man Called Quick. Well, again, that's just, like, I'm reading this again out loud here, and it's still just really hitting home that he's able to listen to us and understand that we are fans and we are talking from a fan perspective, and we're just being really open and really honest. I'm glad that he's connecting to that, and it's not ruining the show for him, and it's not affecting how he feels about us and the way we talk about it. That's, yeah, it's really appreciated.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But then he has a little PS here, and he says, P.S. Yes, my favorite superhero since childhood is The Flash, the Silver Age one, Barry Allen. So living at a time with The Flash TV show, renewed for a 3rd season, an upcoming movie, and a podcast hosted by The Flash, yeah, it's the best of times. Well, what more can I say to that? That really tickles me Flash red.
Me too.
Yeah.
Or is that Harley red? I don't even know.
Yeah, there you go. I mean, it's because I'm just like him, been a fan of the Flash. That's why I'm going by that moniker, and I can totally relate and concur.
Yep.
So I get you. We're in a great time right now of Flash TV and a possibly good movie coming out. I'm hoping for a good movie. And the fact that me and Harley get to sit here and podcast and talk about it, yeah, it's as fun times indeed.
It's a great time for superhero stuff in general.
It is. It's a good
time. A lot of good movies, a lot of good TV, just a lot of good stuff going on.
Yeah. So Ken, thank you for that wonderful email. I hope you do not mind that we just shared that with everybody, but I felt it was so worthwhile sharing, and again, just thanks.
Yes, thank you.
We will see you in season 2. I hope you're listening to this and you're glad and happy that we got an extra episode out to you.
I'm sure everybody will be excited to hear us.
Yes.
Hopefully.
And now, talking about feedback, even though we are on hiatus, the TV show and me and Harley, please don't let that mean you don't have to reach out to us. If you guys feel you want to reach out to us via email or voicemail or tweeting or whatever, Facebook messaging, please do. We are still around. Harley might be a little more predisposed.
Yeah.
Soon, but I'm sure she'll pick up her phone and log into the Facebook page once in a while or something. I will be around. It's summertime. I'll be busy, but I would still love to hear you guys talking at us. Whatever you want to say, feelings, thoughts. Hey, if you want to send feedback in relation to this episode and give us your overall season thoughts and feelings, hey, go right ahead. We would love to keep getting it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So Harley, tell them how they can do that.
Well, if you would like to join in our discussion, you can submit feedback via email to cybercastfan@gmail.com. That's cybercastfan@gmail.com. And we ask normally that you submit all feedback by 8 p.m. Eastern on Fridays following the show. Obviously, now that it's summer, we're on break, you can send it anytime you have any thoughts or feelings or something you want to get off your chest, hopefully superhero related. Feel free to send it in, and we'll keep getting those, and we'll probably run over them on our premiere podcast. But you can also join our Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/Tomorrow's Legends. And you can follow us on Twitter at Cybercast. All of these details and more can be found on our website at tomorrowslegends.libsyn.com. And there you can subscribe in iTunes, download our episodes, and leave comments about each of the shows. Each of the shows. And while you're over in iTunes, why don't you go ahead and rate us and leave a review? We would really appreciate it.
We totally would. Cool. Well, thanks for putting that out there again, Harley. And we got still a little bit more, guys. So I hope that we talked about before. I hope after hearing about the contact info, you're not signing off, because we saved some good stuff for the end. And what we decided to say for this time is we've collected all the facts and news items relating to Season 2 coming up, and we're going to share what we know so far. And I'm sure most of you have heard or read about a lot of this yourselves, but that's okay. We're going to talk about it a little bit anyway.
And if you haven't and you don't want to know about it, this is the time to turn off the podcast. So consider this our spoilers section.
We interrupt this program to bring you a special report.
It's actually not too spoilery. It doesn't really give away any massive reveals.
No, not really.
It's just kind of what's coming, a general feel, and a few character announcements, things like that. So.
Yeah, I didn't really feel it was super spoilery.
But the very first thing is our return date, and that by our, I mean Legends of Tomorrow, the TV show, returns Thursday, October 13th, which means that Harley and I return Friday, October 14th with our Season 2 episode recording.
Yep.
All right, so tidbits, Harley. One of the things we already touched on is we know now for sure that Thanagar is not the Season 2 villains. There will not be any planetary assaulting or attacking or anything like that.
Thing like that, yeah. Which, I don't know. I mean, on the one hand, it's kind of disappointing because, like I said, I felt like that whole plot point just fell flat for Season 1. But on the other hand, I mean, they set up something pretty cool with the Justice Society of America reveal in the finale as well. So I really want to see where that went.
Yeah, totally. Now, you got something here, and I totally just messed up on it. I thought you were talking about Supergirl, but
I was talking about Supergirl.
You're saying Superman is rumored to appear in Legends.
Yes, he is confirmed to appear in Supergirl.
Yes, the first 2 episodes of Supergirl, he's confirmed. So what's going on with Legends? Tell me about that.
So it's kind of one of the articles that I picked up. I just, did some Googling the other day on all the Season 2 news. And, I mean, we know the actor is Tyler Hoechlin, probably butchering that. But we know he's going to appear on Supergirl. Mm-hmm. but because Superman was referred to in Legends, Rip refers to him in the 3rd episode, Blood Ties, where he says, "I've seen Men of Steel die and dark nights fall." And this kind of refers to those, famous comic book arcs with Superman and Batman. So I think it's set up that he's in the universe. Supergirl now is officially in our universe since she's been brought over to the CW, and Superman is appearing on Supergirl. So who knows? We could see him. That'd be kind of cool.
That would be kind of cool. I mean, I would assume that it would just be an episode where he helps them out somewhere. I mean, Superman is
right.
He's like the ultimate hero. There's not much that can stop him. So for him to join our team in any way, shape, or form, our team wouldn't have to do much.
Right, exactly.
So yeah, I mean, it'll be neat to see if and how they incorporate him on the team.
I think it would be a fun cameo for an episode, like a fun crossover from Supergirl.
Yeah, exactly. But talking about the actor Tyler, just looking at him, he reminds me so much of Grant Ward from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah, he does look a bit like Brett Dalton, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I said the character's name, but yeah, the actor's name, Brett Dalton. The few pictures that I saw of him, he's just got the same look to him, so. I don't know anything about the guy. Apparently he's from another TV show. People like him from another show.
Was he the one on the originals?
I don't know. I don't know the guy, and the TV show he's coming from I don't know as well. So, but people seem to like him. So he could be a cool little addition to our CW universe anyway. And, I mean, playing Superman, I'm going to give him a chance. I was disappointed at the announcement.
Teen Wolf. Sorry, he's from Teen Wolf.
Teen Wolf. There's something after that too, though, I thought. You got his history there?
I clicked on the article.
Okay.
Hold on, I'm going down. Yeah, he was on Teen Wolf. A friend of mine works on Teen Wolf, actually.
Oh, wow.
It just says Teen Wolf in this article. It just is talking more about, his possibility to appear in, Legends.
Pulling it up here. Okay, no, maybe it is Teen Wolf. Yeah, he was 61 episodes in it. Okay, I thought there was something else that I saw. But, alright. So it's Teen Wolf, and anyway, he's well known from that. So what I was saying is, I was a little disappointed at the announcement because I was really, really gunning for Tom Welling of Smallville to take up the Superman role and continue his story from Smallville.
That would have been cool.
I don't know what happened, why he didn't take it, why they didn't give it to him. I don't know what it was. All I know is there's a little bit of rumor that he didn't want to do it because he doesn't know the story behind Superman at that point, what he's done to get there or anything. He had said something like that in an interview, so he basically doesn't know who Superman is at this point, so he didn't want to do it. I don't know if that's the only reason.
He spent 10 years of his life as Clark Kent. I mean, the guy may not want to be Superman anymore. I mean, you gotta think about that.
Yeah, but what is
Smallville ran for a long, long time.
It ran for 10 seasons. But to me, I would look at it like this would get me back into the spotlight, get me back into the hearts of fans because I've been gone for a while, and I get to continue a role that I really, people were gunning for to take on the movie role. Everyone wanted him to be the Superman in the movies. So I don't know. I really would like to have seen him, and where it also disappointed me is that the CW has had a flawless record in bringing back all the original actors from all the old shows. You look at John Wesley Shipp, who was the Flash in the 90s. He is now on the Flash playing the Flash's father. You look at, on Supergirl, they brought back Dean Cain, who played Superman on Lois and Clark. They brought back Helen Slater, who played Supergirl in the movie. They brought back what's her name who played Supergirl on Smallville? She was one of the villains on Supergirl. Why am I blanking on her name? Laura Vandervoort. The CW has just brought back all their characters. So I just don't know why they failed at this one. This would have been the gold medal of resurrecting actors back onto the shows again.
He may not have wanted to come back. I mean, Milo Ventimiglia passed up on, he came out and said for Heroes Reborn that there was no way he was going to reprise his role as Peter Petrelli.
Right, so.
Because he did not want to go back to that. And but he's a phenomenal actor. Not that Tom Welling's not a good actor, but I mean, Milo has done a lot for himself. I mean, he was on Gotham. He's been in countless movies, miniseries. He's amazing.
He was Rocky's son in the last Rocky movie.
Oh, was he? I didn't see the last Rocky movie. I love him, though. He's one of my favorite actors. Yeah, he's great.
But anyway, that's just my point. So I'll still give Tyler a chance. It took me some time to get over the disappointment. So we'll see how this new guy is in our new world, our new universe of all 4 shows.
Yeah.
All right, so then another point you kind of threw in here.
Yeah, so, well, there's a couple of things that are all mentioned in the same article where, Superman's rumored to appear on Legends. So they kind of launch into the aspect about the Dark Knight Returns graphic novel and Batman. Again, referring back to Rip's comment, I've seen Men of Steel die and Dark Knights fall. So that kind of implies that there's a Batman kind of in this overall universe, and, The Dark Knight Returns is a very famous graphic novel. It's not necessarily considered canon. It's Frank Miller. It's almost more of an Elseworlds interpretation of Batman. But, I mean, it's a huge thing. I've never actually read it, start to finish. I've been doing some research on it for the show. Apparently, within Dark Knight Returns, there is a one-armed Green Arrow. And there is a reference that he lost his arm to Superman, but it doesn't say like how that happened. Like,
I was just freaking out. Like, really? What? How? Because I didn't know that. I was going to ask you, how does Green Arrow lose his arm to Superman? Why? What happens? What causes that?
Well, so I went back and kind of looked into it because we do see a one-armed version of Green Arrow in Star City 2046. So
yes,
that's a clear tie-in.
How cool would that be if they incorporated this little story tidbit that you're bringing up? How cool would that be?
It would be totally awesome. But within that, it's just kind of assumed that Superman is the source based on kind of something that Oliver Queen says to Batman, like just kind of in response to how, he lost his left arm or whatever. And so all we know is that comic series features a Green Arrow and an Oliver Queen that has one arm. And it's based on his comment, it's kind of assumed that Superman, he lost it as a result of some conflict with Superman. But the only reference to it is in Green Arrow Volume 2, number 100. And that was written 9 years later. Keep in mind, Frank Miller's Dark Knight series was written in the 80s. And so there's, I had found this other link, and it's kind of a little, they kind of quote about how he possibly lost his arm as a result of a confrontation with Superman. I think he actually elects to amputate it or something about or is there a bomb? Okay. I'll just read this little excerpt really quick. It says, Green Arrow ends up shot with his hand stuck in a dead man's switch and the bomb containing the mutagen. As soon as he removes his hand, the bomb will detonate. Superman arrives on the scene. On the plane, Superman goes over all the available options with Oliver. Oliver tells Superman to destroy the bomb and Oliver as well. Superman tells Oliver he sees one way out of this for Oliver, but it involves amputation. Oliver says he'd rather die, and Superman tells Oliver it's not his choice. But that was written 9 years after.
Okay, well, so really, it's not like they actually had a fight. It's Superman was trying to save him, and the best way he could save him was just, whatever it was, stopping the bomb, but he would lose his arm in the process of that. Exactly. So, because I relate Green Arrow versus Superman, unless he's firing kryptonite arrows, what's Green Arrow going to do against Superman?
That's actually what happens in The Dark Knight Returns, actually.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yes. But he's already only one-armed at that point, so.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
Still. Anyway, that would be cool. If they incorporated that into, I guess that would end up being more on Arrow than on Legends, but it's still pretty cool.
It's still pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's a way to bring Arrow and Stephen Amell back into Legends.
Yeah. All right. And then continuing from that little tidbit.
I'm going to let you launch into this. It just mentions within this article that Flash has announced they're doing a version of Flashpoint.
Yeah, they actually, Grant Gustin himself actually said, yes, we're doing Flashpoint.
Nice.
And that...
I think a lot of people didn't want this, though.
You think so?
I'm not one of them. I think it's fascinating, and I'm along for the ride. But I feel like there was a lot of backlash on CCU about them doing Flashpoint.
I don't remember that. I guess because I'm so excited that I don't care about people who don't want it.
I'm excited too. I like it when they mess. I like to see what happens when they mess with history and then let Flash fix it all.
Yeah.
So.
Well, the thing is, as Stephen Amell himself also announced at the Heroes and Villains Fan Fest that was just on the weekend.
Oh yeah.
A fan asked him if the Flashpoint storyline on Flash will affect Arrow, and he said yes.
Good.
Actually, the way Stephen Amell, he's like, sure. And then they continued, will it majorly affect Arrow? And he said, yes, it will. So
they're doing it right.
Yes. What does that mean for Legends, and how will our team be involved? Well, I have a theory about some of that. You ready for it?
Take it away.
All right. So the season will start out with the Flashpoint storyline, and I'm talking more about Flash right now. It will start out with the Flashpoint storyline, only with the TV show's spin on it. We don't have Wonder Woman, Aquaman, Batman, or Lois Lane in our CW worlds. So just like the showrunners have been pulling from all of the major Flash comic book stories, they've been putting their own spins on it to suit the show. Mm-hmm. So what can they replace those major characters with? Well, Oliver's father as Green Arrow instead of Bruce's father as Batman, for one, because in the Flashpoint story, when Flash goes back to save his mom and changes the entire future, it is not Bruce Wayne who becomes Batman, it is Thomas Wayne becomes Batman, because it is Bruce and his mom that gets shot in the alley by the robber, and Thomas is the only survivor. So we saw one of the times when Flash is running back in time, and you see all those images in the Speed Force there. We saw a picture of an older looking Green Arrow that looked like his dad.
Oh yeah, that's right.
So I'm thinking, because we don't have Batman, they could still use that storyline, only it is Oliver's father as the Green Arrow instead of Oliver.
I like that. That's solid.
So as I started, the season will start out with the Flashpoint story, but maybe half of the season only. Okay. And at that point, it's slowly going to merge into the Crisis on Infinite Earth storyline, where we will have Earth 1 with Flash, Arrow, and Legends, Earth 2 with the Justice Society characters, and Earth 3, which is where Jay Garrick is from, and possibly Supergirl, but I'm thinking she's from a different Earth. All of these Earths will be colliding in a major disaster, which Cisco saw the future of, and it eventually will be left just with the one Earth. And that is how we get Jay and Supergirl onto our Earth and part of our worlds and our storyline. Oh. So, because the show doesn't follow the comics exactly, it twists the story to keep it fresh and new. They will combine the Flashpoint and Crisis stories. I mean, heck, they've already done that in the Flash finale. It was a little bit Flashpoint and a little bit season 2 finale of the Young Justice cartoon mixed together.
Oh, interesting.
So, where does that leave our Legends to come into all of this? I think that's what the Big Four show crossover event in December is going to be all about. And our team could possibly be playing the parts of characters we saw in the Flashpoint storyline, or the results of Barry messing with the past that will affect our team as well, because they're going to be jumping around time traveling. Barry could screw something up in the past, and it's going to affect our team's timeline, and they're not going to know what the heck happened.
We've got 2 sets of time travelers. Oh my god, this is so confusing. It's going to be amazing, but so confusing.
Yeah, and what I mean by our team could be playing the parts of other characters on Flashpoint. I mean, if you read the Flashpoint storyline, or you watch the Flashpoint Paradox movie, there was tons of support characters in there that were very integral to the storyline, and our team of Legends could very easily take on those roles, just like I would say Oliver's father was taking on Thomas Wayne's role.
Gotcha.
So those are the ways that I see it going. That is my theory, and you heard it from me, and we'll see if I am right on any of it.
I think it sounds fascinating, personally. Oh yeah,
Cool.
That sounds good to me. I didn't have like a big theory, but I'm not as familiar with Flashpoint. I mean, I know like the key points about it.
Have you not seen the movie even?
I didn't watch it. No.
Okay, that's homework for you. You've got to watch it over these next few days if you have time.
Yeah. I'll watch. Well,
few
months. I've got a couple months to watch it.
Yeah. Well, let me know if you can find it. And if you can, I can send it to you.
I think at one point it was out on Netflix. I don't know if it's still there. But...
It's still, it might be there. It's just a fascinating story. It shows you what can happen when Flash does something major in the past and how it affects the future. And yeah, it's cool. Just the fact that they're going to take on this major event and try to incorporate it into our TV show, even though we're missing a lot of the key characters. I can't wait to see what they do with it and how they put a spin on it.
I know. Part of me almost doesn't want to watch it because I just want to see what the TV show does with it. Does that
I get you.
You know what I mean?
But it might...
I don't know if that's dumb or not, but...
Well, I don't know. I mean, I'm excited because I know the Flashpoint storyline, and it excites me. I think where people maybe are upset that they're doing it is because we're missing a lot of the key characters, and they're unsure of how the show is going to change that. I really don't know why people are upset about it. I'm just guessing.
I mean, I know the premise of it, and I think it's really cool, and I'm excited to see how they deal with it. I mean, Barry's a young hero. He's gone back into the past. He's changed something that we all know he can't change because of how it affects the future. Yeah. And we know he's going to have to go back and undo it eventually.
Right.
Again, for the third time.
For the turf. Which fits into, I mean, we've ended up talking a lot about the Flash, but it fits into, hey, you know what? We're fulfilling another request. People wanted us to talk about Flash and Arrow, so.
Oh yeah, that's true. I forgot about that.
But it ties into because at that point in time when Flash goes back to the point of his mother's murder,
yeah,
there's 3 versions of him there, and we've only seen 2 so far. So this season it'll build up to the 3rd one.
It's all gonna come back.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm excited for.
Exactly. So I don't know. I personally feel like you should watch Flashpoint. And just to get, because you can watch it knowing the show is not going to be able to go that grand.
That's true.
You'll be able to see like, oh, okay, so where are they going to pull these ideas from, and what are they going to, how are they going to replace that? How are they going to fix that? And
yeah, that's true. All right.
Anyway, well, that's that. We still got a few other points. What other news items have we come up with?
Just a couple smaller ones. The first is that the Legends are going to meet Einstein in season 2,
that's cool. Where'd you find that?
This link to this article that I have right here. I don't know. It's on cinemablend.com. I don't know if they're reputable or not, but, it's popped up. I've seen it referenced on a couple of different websites, so I think it's pretty legit. Okay. But yeah, they're supposed to meet up with Einstein at some point, but they're not going to go with like the super sciencey version, like Manhattan Project. Like they're not going to go the science route. They're going to see like the other side of Einstein. That's a little bit lesser known. I mean, he's a notorious womanizer, might be the best way to put it.
Maybe that's not.
I mean, the man really was, but.
Yeah.
He's brilliant, and
it's part of history that maybe isn't written so much about, and only people that were around him would know this side of him. Who knows?
Yeah, and I think it's less well documented, so they can take a lot more liberties with it. And so I think that's kind of where they're going with it, without having to get too heavy into theoretical physics.
Although it's still going to be fun to see Dr. Stein getting all giddy and excited.
Oh, yeah.
To talk physics and stuff with Einstein. And then even Ray probably, I'm imagining Ray getting into some serious debate over some sciencey stuff with him or something, it's going to be fun. I think those 2 guys will have the most fun with it.
Oh, yeah, it'll be great. And they'll have to do a little bit of kind of service that way, especially since we have those 2 characters. So I think that'll be fun. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, that'll be fun. Cool. And then something else that's come up, which has actually been announced and confirmed now, is one of our new cast members.
It is. We are officially getting a new version of Vixen.
And for those who don't watch Arrow, she was introduced in one episode of Arrow.
But this is not the same Vixen that
It's not the same Vixen, but...
No.
Well,
it's actually her grandmother.
It's actually her grandmother. All right. Well, do you have a little bit of background on Vixen because that's yet another request is to talk a little bit about the new characters.
Yes, actually, I have a whole kind of section. I have another section where I kind of delved into a little bit more about like some of our comic book tie-ins, including some background on some of the new characters. So.
Okay, so that's coming later.
Yeah, we can jump into that for a minute because related to that, Citizen Steel has also been cast for season 2.
Yes, that's another.
Yeah, and he's to be the grandson of Commander Steel, and Commander Steel was from the Justice Society of America. And again, I've got a little bit more like on the comic book when we get to the comic book tie-ins, so we'll go over kind of who Vixen is, like what she does, like briefly. Same thing with Citizen Steel, because they're not two characters that I knew much about. I mean, my exposure to Vixen has been on Arrow, and this is going to be a different version of her. It's supposed to be her grandmother,
but still the same abilities.
It's the same abilities. It's the same totem. Okay. So,
well, we'll do that since you got a little bit comic book history. We'll save it for that. But I do have a couple thoughts. Because I think it's cool that they're adding Vixen. I liked her on Arrow, and I really liked the animated series. It was fantastic. I do know that the majority of us, and especially you and me, we hated the magic aspect brought into Arrow this season. Yes. It really ruined the show. But I don't think Vixen was part of the negative side effect from that. I think if she just uses the magical side of her abilities to grant herself the powers, which you'll get into more, for whatever situation the team gets into. If she's just using her animal abilities, then I think she'll be a great addition. It doesn't have to be all magical and mystical and all the crap that Arrow had. It's just, she just happens to get her abilities from a magical source. And I think that's cool. I think she could be a really, really cool character to play around with on the show.
I'm cautiously optimistic. Because I didn't hate Vixen. I didn't love Vixen. I was just kind of like, okay, that's cool. At least we have another magical powered person to battle Damien Dark.
Did you watch the cartoon, her Vixen series?
Nope.
Oh, jeez. It's like 10 episodes long or something, or 6 episodes long, and they're all 2 minutes or less. You string them all together, it's like 10 minutes. You can see for 10 minutes you go through the whole thing, but it's so well done. And Flash and Arrow are on it.
Yeah, I know.
I'm going to send it to you. 10 minutes, that's all you got. All you need.
All right. I told you, I was not overly excited about this character, so.
Well, even just to watch, Stephen Amell and Grant Gustin voiced their characters on it too, so it's just funny to hear them and see them as cartoons. It's kind of neat.
Yeah.
But anyway, I will see. The only thing I don't know is why they decided to go with the grandmother. I'm like, why? The grandmother was never well known. She's not the one in the comics.
I'm wondering if maybe that's why. So that they can do more with her. I mean, she's not mentioned anywhere.
Yeah.
Anywhere.
Okay.
So.
Right.
Most of what, yeah.
And then the Citizen Steel guy, again, I don't know anything about him. So when you...
I'll go over it. I didn't know anything about him either.
When you go over his stuff, I'll save what my thoughts are for when you talk about him. Anyway, a third...
He looks cool.
Yeah, he looked kind of cool, but we'll get to it. Anyway, that's just announcements. Vixen and Citizen Steel are 2 new cast members, so I guess they're replacing the Hawk people. Yeah. When they get onto the show, we don't know. We don't know if they're going to be introduced right away, or if we have to wait a few episodes. That we have not found out yet.
Yeah, well, I know at least one is a JSA member, so maybe if we get introduced to that pretty quickly, that'll be where we pick up at least one of them. So.
Right. Now, something else you added in here, a possible third cast member, shocked the crap out of me. I did not catch this anywhere. Where did you find this out? The possibility of Jay Garrick, the Flash, to join our team.
The famous Google machine. I don't know. I typed stuff into Google and I came up with an article from Yabada.com.
Okay.
Not freaking clue how reputable this is, but it's an entire article on here, and it does mention that Jay Garrick will join. I'm trying to see if I can find the exact point in the article here.
Like as a full cast member or as a guest member, or is he's just going to be on one episode and be back on The Flash regularly? Or is he going to bounce around between all of them?
He might bounce around. It says, other characters being added to Legends of Tomorrow Season 2 include Jay Garrick, the Flash, and an old version of Vixen, while heroes like Jonah Hex, Connor Hawke, and John Constantine are being considered for the show.
That's interesting.
My gosh.
See, that kind of, because we did poll about that of who would like to see added, and Connor Hawke was one of our choices.
Yeah, so, I mean, like I said, I Googled a whole bunch of stuff. We'll have to see, like, what's reputable and what's not. I mean, there's always the possibility that some of this is strictly rumor. But.
Well, it could make sense, because we talked about our finale podcast that we can't have too many Flashes on The Flash anyway. That's why I don't think we'll get Jesse Quick. I don't think we'll get Wally West, because the show's about Barry Allen, and we can't have all these speedsters running around. So even if they do introduce them, they're going to have to go their separate ways. And I think bringing Jay Garrick to Legends kind of makes sense because Jay was the original founder of the Justice Society of America.
Yeah.
So it makes total sense. And since we met the Hour Man in the finale, which introduces the society as being there in our world, in our universe, maybe he takes them back to Earth 3, where we find Jay, and he joins to help the fight in the Crisis storyline that I say is going to eventually develop.
Yeah, I mean, it makes a whole lot of sense. It really does. So, we'll see.
And that means more John Wesley Shipp, which I love, so that's great.
Yeah.
So I found one piece of news that it looks like you did not find.
Excellent. What did you find?
I found the possibility what our season 2 villain is going to be.
Ooh, I couldn't find that announced anywhere. I thought they were keeping it close to the vest.
I can't remember where I found it. So again, this is all possibility, not actual fact, dear listeners. But our season 2 villain could be Extant, is his name.
Oh, did we speculate about that in our finale? Because he has to do with Our Man.
Kind of. I don't remember if we talked about it. I actually delved into his history, and I got a little bit on him here, so we'll know a bit about him.
Okay.
So, I read a little bit somewhere that the new villain will be Extant. I had to do some research, but he has quite an epic story, which led me to a surprising fact before I even get to Extant. I think I know where our time-traveling ship's name comes from, the Wave Rider. A scientist named Matthew Ryder, who was an expert on temporal studies, was doing some time travel experiments, and in some type of event that happened, it transformed him into a living form of temporal energy. He changed his name to Wave Rider.
Ooh, cool.
So I wonder if that's just a little nod, a little tie-in, or that could be a little Easter egg, a little basis of the ship with maybe Rip has a connection with him. Maybe they were friends, I don't know, but the ship's called Wave Rider. This guy called himself Wave Rider, who happened to be a living form of temporal energy because he was working on time travel experiments, and the Wave Rider's time traveling ship, da-da-da. You get the connection I'm making.
Oh yeah, that's cool.
Kind of cool. Anyway, back to Extant. At first he was known as the hero Hawk, one half of the hero team, Hawk and Dove. And 40 years into their future, Hawk goes insane and becomes the supervillain known as Monarch. And he actually kills virtually all of the superheroes on Earth in that 40-year future. And we only know about this because another time traveler went back in time and found this out. So Monarch kills all these heroes in an event called Armageddon 2001. After that event, he confronts Wave Rider and absorbs all of his powers, giving himself the ability to travel time as he pleases, and then he changes his name to Extant.
Ooh, cool.
So that brings us to the possibility of our new Season 2 villain. And what I read after that was that the showrunners have decided that this villain is going to be a slow burn, a slow reveal. We're not going to find out about him for a while, which is awesome. That's kind of what I already said is taking from The Flash.
I like that.
So, yeah, whether we see him or we see him right away, but we don't know anything about him, or we don't even see him I don't know. They just said that it's going to be a slow reveal, and if it ends up being this extant guy, then that's cool. I mean, really, it kind of has to be a time-traveling villain, because the show is about time travel, and our heroes are time travelers, so there's a few time-traveling good guys and villains in the comic book, so they're going to have to pull from some of them. Anyway, that's what I found out.
That's awesome. I'm excited for that. I think that'll be cool.
Yeah, and I just thought that was cool that I in researching that, I found out about the Wave Rider history. That was kind of cool.
I definitely think that's a nod or possibly an Easter egg for sure. I do not think that's a coincidence.
No, it can't be.
Yeah.
All right, so now we come to, you did quite a bit of work here, Harley, for our wonderful listeners, and I hope they appreciate it. You've got a little comic book section here.
Gathered together from the cosmic reaches of the universe.
I do. I started looking into some things just in case, just to give a little quick synopsis on the two new characters that have officially been announced, Vixen and Citizen Steel, and then also because we keep referencing it, The Death of Superman and The Dark Knight Returns. One I have read, not within the last 2 days, and the other I have not.
Okay, so you have not read Death of Superman.
I have read Death of Superman.
Oh, it's Dark Knight you haven't.
It is Dark Knight. I know, surprisingly, right?
Yeah.
So there's Death of Superman, and a lot of people, if you have seen Batman versus Superman, you just saw a version of it.
Yes.
And so what happens in the Death of Superman, just really high level, quick overview here, is there's this villain called Doomsday. He's kind of genetically engineered in some sort of lab. And the premise behind him is that he evolves every time he's killed, and he kind of becomes invulnerable over time. So every time he's killed, he becomes kind of invulnerable to the method that killed him.
Right, and so you can no longer kill him the same way that he was killed that time. Yeah.
So technically, eventually, he's going to get to a point of, can you ever really kill him?
He becomes unstoppable.
Yeah, he kind of just keeps coming back and back and back, and there's at some point nothing you can do. And so, during the Death of Superman, they basically kill each other, and that's kind of how it ends. And I think one of the iconic scenes is either Doomsday or Superman floating in space. One of the two.
Right. I think that was Doomsday, actually.
I think it was Doomsday. Yeah, anyway.
Yeah, well, I mean, that was probably the largest event in DC history, is killing off their flagship character. That was huge.
Yes, I remember it vividly as a child. It was like in the news, like it was a huge deal. And
it was world news, yeah.
It really was. It is. And it's one of the few comics, like actual paper comics that I own.
Yeah.
So. And so then the next one was The Dark Knight Returns. And like I said, this is a Frank Miller series. There's several parts to it. It's very long. I've not personally read it, but it is considered to be an Elseworlds Batman series. It's not technically DC canon, but it's very well known. I mean, Frank Miller's graphic novel work is very famous. He's done a lot of different things. And like I said, the big takeaway from this one was that we had a one-armed Green Arrow. And then, so him and Batman end up taking on Superman, and this also has a little bit of tie-in back to Batman versus Superman that just came out. But basically, Superman he's aligned with the U.S. government, and they're considered to be very corrupt at that point, and so Green Arrow and Batman actually take him on.
Huh.
And Batman also dies at the end of the series, supposedly.
Nice.
So he actually doesn't really end up dying, but.
So when you say these are comic book tie-ins, are these are tying into Legends somehow, or just because we've mentioned stuff along these lines?
Both. I mean, because that phrase that he says, "Men of Steel die, Dark Knights fall." These are exact references to these two comic book series.
That's what I wanted to refresh in everybody's ears, is where you're getting the tie-ins from.
Yeah, so that's the time. And that's what he's referring to, and that's why so many of us in episode 3, when he said that line, completely freaked out. Because that meant that there's Superman and there's Batman within our universe somewhere. Will we ever see them? Superman, we'll see, apparently.
Apparently,
Batman,
yeah.
probably not, but it's still cool.
Well, that in itself is massive, because DC, they're on record as saying that they'll never combine their TV and movie worlds.
Right.
And they don't want the same characters being alive at the same time on either show or on either platform. And
they just violated that rule twice.
Yeah.
Because The Flash and Superman.
Yeah. So there we go. Yeah. So it's interesting. Cool. All right. And what else do you got?
So the last 2 things are about our new characters.
Oh, Vixen and Citizen Steel, yes.
Mm-hmm. So Vixen, she uses magic to channel the power of animals through the Tantu totem.
The Tantu totem. You got to say that in like an African accent or something.
Oh yeah, I'm not so good at that.
All right. The Tantu totem, yeah, she can channel any animal that she's come into contact with.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I know about her. She can't just say power of an elephant and she's never ever seen it. She has to have come into contact with the animal and then she can channel it.
Gotcha. Okay, that makes more sense.
Yeah.
And then the version that's supposed to appear in Legends is her grandmother, not the version we saw in Arrow. So I personally think that this new version is being done for this series. I mean, I looked and I did not find almost zero reference to a grandmother.
Well, no, because even in the cartoon series, there's no mention of a grandmother. It's her mother that's teaching her in the beginning. Right. So, yeah, I think they're maybe using this as a way to write whatever they want for the show and
I think
the character in whatever sense. So it's fine. I mean, it's cool. Like I said, I like the idea of Vixen because by channeling the power of animals, it's not so much power that she can get this. You see her use the strength of a gorilla. You see her use the speed of a cheetah. You see her use the nimbleness of a squirrel or whatever. Like it's pretty cool what she can do. I mean, when she uses the power of the cheetah, Flash actually has trouble for a moment catching up to her because he wasn't expecting her to be so fast. And then when she's flipping from building to building like an acrobat, Arrow can't keep up with her. So it's pretty neat to see what she can do.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
And then, so the last thing I had is on Citizen Steel. I was not at all familiar with this character.
Me neither.
So, he is Nathan Haywood is his name. The Citizen Steel's name, not like the actor name. Like Citizen Steel is Nathan Haywood. And so while attending a family reunion, his family gets attacked by Vandal Savage.
Well, how funny is that?
Yeah, I was like, well, that's an interesting tie-in. Whether or not they'll show that actually having happened, I don't know. That would be kind of cool to tie the 2 seasons together. But the whole reason that Savage is attacking him is an attempt to destroy everyone in the Justice Society of America. And so he brings this guy named Reichsmark along with him. And this character, there wasn't a lot on him other than that he's basically made out of solid metal, and he turns people into steel when he touches them. And so he is attacking Nathan Haywood, and Nathan he had his leg amputated, and so he has a crutch, and he jabs him through the throat or something. I don't know. He ends up getting this blood all over him. It's like metallic blood from this Reichsmark guy. And so Hawkman comes in and saves Nathan, who happens to absorb this metallic blood, and he goes into a coma. And so eventually, he wakes up and he finds out, his amputated leg has been regenerated, but it's steel. And then he also kind of has this, superhuman strength, and, his body has kind of absorbed, steel-like properties.
Right. So his skin becomes steel.
Essentially, yeah.
Yeah. And he becomes kind of invulnerable, superhuman strength.
Yeah. And I don't think he's metallic per se, but I think it's kind of, he's more invulnerable and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. And and from the pictures you see of him, and he's kind of got a patriotic color to him, red, white, and blue. And
he looks like Jarvis meets Captain America.
Yeah.
That's exactly what he looks like to me.
Yeah. Yeah, so, yeah, we'll see. But what I wanted to say for him is I'm curious that they're bringing in a character like that, because with those kind of abilities, that's, again, going to be heavy on the special effects.
True.
And whether they're getting a massive injection of budget, I don't know, because you still got Firestorm, and you still have Atom. So, to bring in a guy that has that kind of ability, I wonder if they're going to tweak him a little bit, that we won't see his abilities as often. I don't know.
That's true.
Yeah.
And they may, I mean, this is him from the comics, and we know that they take liberties from the comics. It's not a carbon copy.
Right.
So.
Exactly.
It'll be interesting to see what version of him we get.
Mm-hmm. Totally. And then, of course, there's still Hourman. We don't know anything about this guy. We don't know if it's going to be the Hourman of the comics, too. If he's going to have that Miraclo drug that gives him an hour of boosted abilities. We don't know, or if he's just a time manipulator.
Yeah, that's true.
He's obviously a new character, too, because we got introduced to him. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, he had a lot going on with him. We covered that in the finale, but yeah.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
He'll be cool. Well, that's all I had.
Well, that's quite a bit, though. That really gives us a lot to think about, a lot to look forward to. It seems that DC is really, really expanding on their TV world here. By joining all 4 shows, it looks like they are trying to more get them all in line with each other. And, I mean, they're obviously working towards the big 4-show crossover event in December, so I think it's fun. I think it's cool that the CW has all 4 of them, and it can now be in full control of it and really intertwine the storylines. And because I think their crossover events are some of the most highest rated episodes and with the most viewers and stuff. So I think it's just smart for them to be looking ahead and doing this, because it's unprecedented in TV history to have a 4-show crossover or linked or following the same kind of storyline.
Yeah. Yep.
So
I agree.
I'm excited. And hey, we're along for the ride. We are 1/4 of the podcasting side of things. So
that's true. That is very true. Oh my gosh. It would be interesting if we could, I don't think we can pull it off, but if we did an epic crossover podcasting event somehow.
That's too many people with opinions all wanting to talk at the same time.
It's way too many people. I know. That's what I was just thinking. I was like, could you imagine putting 8 of us?
How would we get a word in edgewise against the Shadow or the 2 Central City guys?
Well, see, here's the downside to that is these are all people that I'm so used to listening to that if we're like actually talking like over a podcast, I sometimes forget I'm supposed to talk. So there's that.
There's that. The other thing that we have to arrange, though, is that we were going to try to get some guest speakers onto our show. So we were talking about possibly getting Jeff Gentry in here from Gotham.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, we'll have to see. Maybe we can get one of the Central City guys on as well.
Yeah, definitely. If they want to come over and bear with us.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But that kind of wraps us up. That was we got some news in there. We got some comic book history for you. And we wrapped up the season. And that kind of wraps everything up for us.
Yep.
Harley is going to be in need of some serious rest and time to deal with her new family.
Yes, so it's going to be exciting, crazy next couple of months. It will be October before I know it. Like, I'm going to go to sleep tonight, I'm going to wake up, and it's going to all be gone, so.
You say that now, but there's going to be days where they're going to seem like 34-hour days. Oh, God, please.
Yes, I mean, that is very true, but, oh, God, in the whole, it's a blur, from what I understand.
Well, my partner in the podcasting world, I hope the best for you. I can't wait to find out how it all turns out.
It'll be great.
Just know that I'll be thinking about you, and you let me know as soon as you can how you're doing.
I will.
And for our listeners, I possibly might come around later on in the summer on my own while Harley is busy with little Harley. I might come around and put something together and get you guys involved. So we'll wait and see. But I hope everyone's enjoyed this season in review.
It's been fun.
I think that's all I got.
That's all I got. Time to get out of here?
Time to get out of here. For one final time of Season 1, this is The Flash, signing off.
I'm Harley Quinn. I'm out.
Cue the sad music.